Hi everyone, and welcome back to another one of our little sessions on how to cope without therapy. And it's merely just a little bit of a chat on various kind of things in psychology, clever stuff that other people research and dedicate their life to. And hopefully it will get us to just understand why we do the things we do, why we react the way we do. And today, well, if you remember yesterday while we were talking about the selectivity theory, the socio-emotional selectivity, and why we tend to just go for the more time horizons shrink. Remember that? I just love that combination of words. Time horizons shrink. The more we want to get involved into anything and everything that gives us emotional pleasure, instant joy. So moving a little bit further down the track of understanding and keeping that trail of thought of the selectivity theory, today we're going to talk a little bit about wisdom. And believe it or not, there is such a thing called the balance theory of wisdom. And there's a Professor Robert Sternberg, he's a professor of human development with Cornell University, that basically dedicated his whole research years to wisdom and how do we end up utilizing things like intelligence, creativity, common sense, and knowledge for things each and every one of us keeps combining on a daily basis, even when you have your tea or coffee. And all of these four bits are mediated by something that is labeled as positive ethical values. Now, positive, straightforward, right? It's a good thing. Ethical, it's well and truly ethical values, if you'd like. It's well and truly all about doing the right thing in the big scheme of things. Most of the times, doing the right thing, it doesn't have to be all patriotic, really. It's just doing the right thing by you, by yourself, by those that you love, by those that you spend your time with. So right and wrong are always kind of easy to define in particular contexts and so blurry to define in different kind of situations. But we're not going to go into a debate of ethical and moral values. That's not the point of today. The point of today is to understand that within ourselves we use certain things, certain capabilities, certain functions, certain skill set that we do have, that we do develop in our lives. We use, like I said, intelligence, creativity, common sense, which is primary sedimented knowledge, and intelligence, practical intelligence knowledge type, as in the type that we learn by experience, the kind that we're not going to go put our hand in the lovely smelly candles because we know it's not going to be a good outcome. It's definitely not a positive outcome for ourselves. The point is we use these elements in various mixtures. Think of it like one of those I hope some of you are still remembering how the music synthesizers were like a keyboard like type of device where you had buttons like an amplifier, yeah, and you can just combine and a little bit of intelligence with a bit more common sense, maybe not so much knowledge, but quite a lot of creativity, can give you a really nice rhythm and melody and routine and outcome all together. Combining all of this and having them mediated by something positive as a value or a belief, or towards a positive outcome, we apply all of these things to achieve I don't really like this word goal. Like goal is the end of the line kind of thing. Sometimes it's just elusive, and perhaps it's just a buzzword that it kind of annoys me because it's used so much nowadays. It does not have its meaning. To achieve a desire, to achieve an end result that is satisfactory, right? To satisfy a need, to achieve a desire, to positively go through a situation. Yeah, let's not call it goal. Now, the part where it becomes really tricky is nothing of what I've just told you so far. The part where it becomes tricky is that we involve these 4 elements, and we tend to involve them towards a positive result, positive outcome, positive desire, positive need. But the part where it becomes tricky and we tend not to lose balance all the time, I personally doubt we lose balance. We end up having conflicting, we end up having competing values against each other, competing gains. And that happens on 3 different fronts. And when you get all 3 of them mixed up in a situation, then it becomes actually quite a thing that stays with you. Sometimes it makes you extremely sad. Sometimes it makes you wonder and question why it is that you give a damn, why it is that you need to care so much. So here are the competing elements. Just remember, you use those 4 elements and you mitigate them with positivity towards accomplishing something lovely that ideally would bring you that lovely emotional happiness we talked about before, an optimal outcome, and will bring a smile to your face. Let's not use goals, okay? But in order to do that, the situation itself, and this is where the puzzle and the context and the competing arguments, if you'd like, the competing notions. Each element on itself has its own merits. Usually it's on 3 folds. We're talking about intrapersonal values, as in things that we do for ourselves, just us, just our lovely soul, like buying shoes or perfumes or a beer. I don't know, but that's something that satisfies just us. It has nothing to do with the outside world. That's one element that has its own merit, and sometimes you just need to breathe, and sometimes you take a day off because you need it. So that's for you, right? That's your way of doing the right thing for you, and it has merit on its own. Then we're talking about a merit or an argument for what we have as interpersonal situations, as in ourselves and not so much another party, if you like. Doesn't have to be a person. It's well and truly, think of it from a language perspective, like the first person, the second person, and the third person. When you're talking intrapersonal, you're talking about I, me, myself, and I. That's pretty much it. When you're talking second person, then you involve someone else in. It's a dual type of situation. Dual. You need to consider you need to consider dual aspects in making that a positive outcome. Whereas when it is about the third person, he, she, it, then it's no longer just about you or the other one. It's about the greater good. It's about the community. It's about doing the right thing. And we do this like, we volunteer and we dedicate our time to community good and to because we've got values and we think we're doing the right, we're a good citizen, or we're doing the right thing, just as much as we apply ourselves in relationships with close ones, with friends, with family, and we consider what it is that they bring in the relationship, or what it is that they would benefit from when it comes to interacting. And again, like in the first person, we definitely consider ourselves and what's in it for me out of this coffee break. Yeah, so you get the drift. Like in a situation, you can always analyze something from these three different merits, three different perspectives. And the trouble comes in when we've got competing gains in a relationship, when you do something but you actually do it for the other one. In an interpersonal dilemma would be, I only have $50, so it's a tough decision. What am I gonna get? Am I gonna buy myself the shoes or the perfumes? And that takes time out of my own wisdom, and how do I become creative, and how I use my intelligence, and how I apply knowledge from before, because, well, it's my money and I can do whatever I want with them. Then I would probably know from experience and knowledge that if I buy the shoes, I can always find the perfume later, but the shoes will go away today. And you go through this whole logical process actually, where you analyze, what if A or B? Well, if A, this will happen. If B, this will happen. So when it comes to balancing these little competing gains, or the assigned value that we give things, believe it or not, most of the times we have no trouble doing that. We do that on a daily basis. When it becomes difficult is when the ethical value tells us, when the rules, the norm, the society, the expectation out of us tells us it's expected of us to do something, but inside we know we would like to do something else. So when those competing values, when those competing, I wouldn't call it energy, but when those competing desires and expectations start fighting each other within ourselves, unfortunately, all that does, it just brings about regrets, because one way or the other, we make our choice and we move on, but inside we keep the balance, the weighting and the potency of, what if I would have gone with my choice? What if I would have done this? This is how you get worries, this is how you get anxiety. But the worst part, I guess, in my books is this is how you get regrets. So in a sense, there are times when we are bound by the wisdom theory and the balancing of all these elements to actually be more egoistic than other times and look after ourselves. And sometimes we are bound to make altruistic choices and be all supportive and empathic because we know that's what's expected. Doesn't mean that that's deep down inside what we're after. So remember those 4 elements: the intelligence, the creativity, the common sense, and the knowledge. The intelligence and the knowledge, in my view, are probably the ones that in time fade and lose importance. Think again about that selectivity theory. But when it comes to common sense, which nowadays is not really that common, but let's still call it common sense. When it comes to common sense and applying creativity, creativity is your free card of blending your own uniqueness into any choice you've got. Just make sure that once you make it, just tell yourself that was the best decision you've made at that point in time. And truth is, if you'd have to reassess, you'd do it again. Why? Because hand on heart, it was the best decision you could have made then. No regrets. It only shows, or it showcases, your ability to balance. And we all do. So, to actually close this whole session, and the fact that we attempt to live true to ourselves, remember our lovely little book and Patrick Lindsay and Finding Beauty. This time around, at page 137, we find beauty in crying. It can be so liberating. It can release long-trapped grief, and it can unveil great beauty in the feelings that prompt the tears and form a prism that provides a new way of seeing things. And that's it for today. I'm Gabriela. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.